Good evening and welcome to another episode of Watchin You. I'm Jeff Scott in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. And joining me all the way from Stewiacke, Nova Scotia, Canada, it is the one and only...
Who am I? Say my name.
Cool Uncle Jeff.
That's right. I am Cool Uncle Jeff.
And I'm not allowed to be Cool Uncle Jeff.
No, I am forever and now Cool Uncle Jeff. I'm even growing a goatee like,
Ooh, look at you.
Yeah. Yeah, Cool Uncle Jeff. That's.
So this is episode 20, Jeff. We've made 20 of these in just over a year. I think we're doing well.
And that's not including the special edition.
And plus that special edition, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And that one's over 500 now?
Really?
Yeah, it just went...
That's cool.
It exploded all of a sudden there. And
excellent stuff.
The Facebook page is now 312 likes.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's about doubled in the last 2 months for some reason.
That's great.
I don't know why, but it is.
Lots of KISS fans out there. And
more
people who like watching you.
More and more all the time. And it's interesting right now what's going on. I'm finding there's a lot of to and fro between the different podcasts, actually. In a good way, actually.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows that these podcasts and these webisodes are quite popular and quite active, and it's all in good fun, and
Yeah, well, I've been talking about having a cage death match with Michael Brandvold.
Yeah.
Somebody chimed in and said, I think the Aussies would win.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Australians, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Our friend.
Just some cool things happening now. I picked up Paul's book, and I mentioned it last time. So I'm reading some of that. It's quite interesting. It's a side of Paul Stanley that I don't think anyone really expected. He really exposes how vulnerable a child he was because of his deformity and his loss of hearing in one ear. A lack of hearing in one ear, and really didn't paint his parents as being overly supportive and nurturing and loving in lieu of his shortcomings. So he certainly had a difficult time growing up.
We actually had someone send us a message to the show suggesting, I apologize, I can't remember who it was, sent us a message to the show saying we should do a show on the book. And I went back and I said, well, one of the things we just talked about this is we're trying to stay creative and different than everyone else, and pretty much everyone has done the book at this stage. But it was an interesting point he made. He said, really, he said the topic really isn't all that important. It's just he kind of enjoys the to and fro of the show, regardless of the topic. I'm sure though, but I think well, let's keep it on the burner for a while because it'd be interesting to come back to it at some point. Might find a different angle, but pretty much everyone else has had a real dig at that one so far.
Yeah. Another interesting thing, KISS will appear on American Idol.
Yeah, again.
It will have been on by the time people see this. I haven't been following it this year. My wife is a big fan, and she's not following it at all. But there is a young fella in the lead, and he's quite a rock and roller. So KISS are going to perform with him. I don't know the guy's name. But
I don't know. Every year it comes...
You scoff at that. You don't like him?
Well, no, I don't scoff at him. Every year it comes down to it's such a cliche. Like last year was a difference. There was this girl who won Candace, and she was amazing. She was black, sort of soul singer, and not your typical American Idol outcome. But every year, American Idol comes down to the rocker guy, the emo guy with the hat, and the girl, and the sort of pop princess. It always comes that. So the rocker guys, like, if you go look at rock, these guys are rock. Yes, for American Idol, but not for anything else. So anyway, be kind of curious. He's a good singer. I've seen him, but
well, someone tweeted. I think Tommy Thayer tweeted a picture of the contestant,
of course,
with the band backstage,
of course,
in makeup. I don't know if the contestant will appear in any makeup, but I'll tune in just to see what they're going to do.
I'd be curious. I got a feeling that Paul's not going to sing. It's my guess.
That's my guess too. Do a couple of Paul Stanley songs and let the kid take over.
I got a feeling that's going to be the case. Yeah.
KISS meets Spinal Tap.
Yeah, man, we should have done that. We should have done this for show 11.
This one is overdue. 11. That would have been great.
I thought of that. I thought, yes, number 11. Why didn't we do number?
How did we miss that one?
I don't know. Spinal
But
Tap.
you know, we've made it so many times over the years. We've made reference back to that film, and so many times on this show we've made reference back to that film.
Yeah, but
and it's just sort of anyone who hasn't seen the film and you call yourself a rock and roll fan, you've missed something. You need to stop this podcast.
I'm glad you said it the way you said it.
Go watch This Is Spinal Tap, and then come back.
I'm glad you.
Not being judgmental.
I thought you were going to say something else. I'm glad you said you're missing something. I thought you said if anybody who hasn't seen this show, you know, is not a real rock and roll fan. You know, it's like me. It's like you said. I'm not a Kiss fan because I didn't have Black Diamond in my top 50 or something like that. And but yeah, you can't help but look at every rock band. When I saw this movie for the first time, hold on a sec. So why are we talking about? Well, we're talking about it because we see a lot of parallels between Kiss and every rock band for that matter. But
and as I was making my notes, I made notes on references or similarities to other bands, not just Kiss. And I think some of them are quite obvious. But there's certainly a lot of Kiss parallels there, if not intentional, somewhat accidental, and somewhat sort of things kind of happened before things happened in Kiss.
I don't think there was when it came to Kiss parts. I don't think there was too much accidental in there.
No, well, I did read an interview with Paul Stanley sometime in the last 20 years. It was quite an old interview.
Yeah.
The interviewer had asked, this is probably pre-reunion.
Yeah.
The interviewer had asked if he had seen This Is Spinal Tap. And he said yes, and the interviewer asked, was there any part of that really sang to you like this was straight out of history? And Paul Stanley referred to the part where the band is backstage and they can't find the stage, and they're going through all these hallways and mazes, and they run into a janitor, and he tries to help them find the stage. And Paul Stanley said they were stuck somewhere and they could hear the audience, and every time they went down a hallway, they just couldn't find the stage. So he said that one was very much like an actual Kiss moment.
I saw that. I read a reference today. Gene Simmons said the same thing. And but there's a lot of those little things in there if you think about, and we'll get into it a little bit more. But Spinal Tap, like I said, you think about there's so many different crossovers here with Kiss for sure. And I can tell you, once I saw this movie for the first time, it really made me look at all of the interviews that rock stars do completely differently, and because it was almost too close to reality. But so I'm really curious. I'm really looking forward to digging into this and just having some fun with it. I know a lot of the people that watch the show are Spinal Tap fans as well, and they'll have their comments about it, I'm sure.
One of the things I did was I went to Internet Movie Database just to get some info on the show. I couldn't quite remember exactly what year it was. I was guessing 82, 83. It was 1984.
84, yeah.
Directed and written by Rob Reiner.
Yep.
All of the music was written by Rob Reiner, Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer. So they're actually up there performing the music that they wrote for the film.
That was what's remarkable about it, is that if you take away the stupidity of some of the lyrics, the music
it's not bad stuff.
Not bad at all. But if some people may not know, of course, Rob Reiner, of course, was from All in the Family. Christopher Guest, many different things. Michael McKean, but they were also Lenny and Squiggy, right, from Laverne and Shirley.
No, well,
which one of them?
Michael McKean was one of them, but the other guy,
Christopher Guest wasn't. He wasn't.
No.
Okay, and then Michael McKean was, and then Harry Shearer.
Yeah. Harry Shearer is on a lot of Simpsons stuff.
Yeah,
his voice is all over Simpsons, but I've seen him appear in many movies as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first things that jumped out at me as being so intentionally similar to Kiss. Derek Small's costume.
Oh yeah,
he's the bass player in the band,
yeah.
And he's got these big round metal rings attached to leather going across his chest, and it's right out of Gene Simmons' Love Gun costume. It's almost the same thing. I found that to be quite intentional.
Well, yeah, I think that one of the things that I always noticed was of course a couple of things when they're on. You see it right in the very first when they open the show up. When they end the first "Tonight We're Gonna Rock You" song, when they finish that first song, all three of them awkwardly jump to the front of the stage and get into this three-man pose, and then Nigel Tufnell, the lead guitar player, gets the tongue going, right?
That's my second note right here.
Oh, is that right?
Nigel's tongue. He uses his tongue a lot when he's soloing. They're heading onto the stage, and he'll look at the camera. That's straight out the Gene Simmons.
Oh yeah,
Total plagiarism there.
All over the place for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Just little things I noticed. There's a song called Big Bottom where all three of them are playing basses.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people notice that, but there's no lead guitar, rhythm guitar. It's three basses. And he does a line that says, "My love gun's loaded and she's in my sights." So, obvious reference to Love Gun. I don't know how intentional that was.
Well, yeah, probably pretty darn. I mean, most of the lyrics, when you look at them, are very well thought out. You know, what I was thinking about.
It's got to be, because they're going for the comedic effect.
Oh yeah, and we'll talk about the lyrics in a second, because what I noticed though was what I was wondering, like when I was thinking about, okay, when you look at the theme of this movie, and you think about, okay, so here's this aging British metal band or rock band, whatever you want to call them, coming back for the last hurrah in the United States.
Yeah.
And sort of, arguably going past their prime. Well, not arguably, definitely going past their prime.
They're in the Where Are They Now file.
Yes, currently they're residing in the Where Are They Now file. Thought about that. I said, okay, so where did Kiss ever fall into that category, and when? And because
so many times,
right?
Because Kiss is up and down. Kiss goes through, they redefine themselves, and the Renaissance, and the reunion, and then Kiss 2 point, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they've just changed themselves so many times over the years. Something interesting was somewhere out there's an interview from the 70s, probably 77, 78, and an interviewer asked Paul Stanley a very serious question. This is when the critics were still really criticizing them for being a little bit ridiculous. And the interviewer said, "Can you seriously see yourself doing this when you're 40? And I mean, you look at that now and you just laugh. I mean, the guy's 66 years old and he's still up there doing it.
Yeah, that comes up in the movie as well. But I was thinking of what I was getting at before was, like, when you think about Kiss and when we think of the Spinal Tap, the group, and the steps that they took to try and find that magic again, the fame again, right? Yeah. In a very comedic way. But you think of all the hoops that they jumped through, and think about Kiss at different stages. So think about when Kiss took the makeup off. Yeah. And think about how that changed their stage presence. We talked about that in an earlier show, but how manic they became, and how it became even more important that things like
overdoing it.
Yeah, everything was overblown, sort of overcompensating for these things, and that's what I kept thinking about. And then, of course, the parallel now. What's different now, though, is that you would say that they would be Spinal Tap-ish today, except for the fact that people are showing up. People weren't showing up in the 80s and in the 90s. You know what I mean? That people weren't showing up to their shows. They were more. So that's the Spinal Tap Kiss connection that I see, much more so than today, believe it or not. Even though
interesting,
right? So I was thinking about that because I was thinking about what did they do, the songs that they wrote, the compromises they made, right? And I mean, Spinal Tap went way over the top. It was there's a lot of other bands in Spinal Tap I think that are really raked a lot more than Kiss has. Actually, they could have gone a lot further if they wanted to. I suppose you think about it when Janine, is her name Janine, I think.
Janine.
Yeah, she comes up and they're in that like, I don't know, Holiday Inn restaurant there, and she brings out the astrology makeup for all the
we'll
characters.
Get into that. I got that on my list. Yeah, so we'll
take it away, Jeff. Where are we going next?
That was probably, and I didn't really remember that one because it's been a few years since I've seen it. But that was one thing I thought, wow, does that zeroed right in on a particular moment in history. But so I'll get to that in a little bit when I get down on my list.
Are we going to talk? Are we going to talk about Dolby?
Dublin.
Dublin.
By the way, the Watchin You is being recorded in Dublin.
Is it Dublin or Dublin?
Like a lot of bands wearing the makeup. I mean, Kiss went all out with the makeup. But bands like Motley Crue and Twisted Sister certainly use a little bit of war paint to accentuate.
Yep.
And you certainly saw that with especially on Nigel. You see some heavy eye makeup, almost kind of David Bowie-ish.
Bluish, yeah.
Very bluish, yeah. Glittery. This is more the glam than the kabuki.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
And just the similarity between Nigel and Ace Frehley. Like he says, the ultimate moment of the show for me is my guitar solos. And it shows him doing his solo, but he's got like a guitar with so many pickups. It's just coils, from the fretboard down to the bridge, and he's up there just squealing away. But horrible leads. But the fact that he's using a Les Paul, and just a line like, "Well, you're not as confused as Nigel is, are you?" And Ace didn't always come across as being the brains of Kiss. If anything, I hope I don't say anything bad about Ace here, but I just don't think he came across as being the most business driven or certainly a creative. I think his solo album is one of the more creative of the four solo albums. Definitely a great rock and roller, but you could see the differences between, say, Nigel and David, and the same differences between, say, someone like Ace and Gene.
Yeah,
Gene looking at it from a business perspective with all cylinders firing. And he said you're not as sedate, or you're not as confused as Nigel is. And of course, we know that Ace was under the influence when so many decisions were being made, so many creative things were being developed. So I just thought there was such an interesting, and just the look of Nigel, the way he looked on stage, was very Ace Frehley-ish.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily. Certainly when I think of Nigel, I think the guitar and all the the effects and those kind of things, and I think the thing that obviously there's an obvious Jimmy Page reference there with the guitar solo with the violin, right?
Yeah. So instead of using the bow, he uses the actual violin
and tunes.
But he's got to tune it.
He tunes the violin. And he kicks the guitar on the stand with his feet. Turns out the volume with his feet, and there's a blah blah blah. But that mocks that whole sort of guitar solo thing, right?
But that reminded me so much of what Ace used to do. He'd start his solo with one guitar, then he'd put it on a stand, and they'd use some kind of a pot fly away, and then he'd have another guitar strapped on. So I thought that was very just that image of a guitar on a stand and Nigel playing another guitar. I thought that was interesting.
As much as I love Ace Frehley's guitar playing, over the years, the guitar solo on Alive 2 was structured and made a lot of sense and sounded great. But every live solo that I saw him do after that on video, on YouTube or whatever, honestly, pretty much crap. It's pretty much just making, pretty much doing as many hammer-ons and pull-offs as you can possibly do, smoke flying, and sounding like Knights Without No, unfortunately.
Well, Vinnie Vincent was accused of doing that. They said when Vinnie had his moment in the show when he could go out and do his solo. And so many people in the organization had the same opinion. It became the Vinnie Vincent show. And he just went out there and squealed for way too long.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you can almost see it. You can almost see a visual similarity between Nigel and Vinnie Vincent, because Vinnie was very much like Ace as well.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he reminds me of a lot of those sort of 80s bands. Like there's this, what was it? Oh God, shit. What's the name of that band that sang Quiet Riot? Like there's all these, all those, that nature of the bands where the bands had that kind of.
When you look at the trousers that they're wearing with all the checkerboard pattern and the stripes, it's very Iron Maiden. It's very Quiet Riot.
Yes, yeah.
And Def Leppard.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really. I like the fact that they were British. They weren't an American band. They were a British band.
Yeah.
Which was funny because these are American actors and they got to use their British accents or fake their British accents. And
they had armadillos in their trousers.
And I had to think, like, who was popular at the time? Yeah, your Quiet Riot and your Def Leppard and your Iron Maiden. And it's such an amalgamation of all those.
We're quite frightening, actually. We've got armadillos in our pants, and
well, the women are scared of us.
I know this is not, but there's another parallel too. Like early Kiss, I don't know. Well, I don't think it was as exaggerated, but
it appealed to teenage boys, and not as much to the girls. Although that part I found a little bit different because I think Kiss prided themselves on attracting women to their shows.
Yeah, I don't know if they attracted them in the audience or just behind the scenes, because it didn't, like, it's to me it still was early on was a men's band, if you will, right? But not to the extreme. But that was the whole point of that question, though. Was why is, like, Marty DeBerge asked the question of the band. He says, "What did you notice this? Basically saying, why is there such a high percentage of your audience that is male versus female, right?"
Yeah.
And that whole, but that goes to that whole sort of attitude that Kiss had, right, around women and sex and partying and right.
I just not really related to Kiss, but I found it so funny when they started reviewing the albums. Just the wide variety of album titles that didn't seem to make any sense, and there's no continuity, which is so similar to Kiss's albums. There doesn't seem to be any continuity. Now, I mean, you take Led Zeppelin 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, there's too much continuity there. It's too much friggin' perspective, if you ask me.
Too much perspective, yeah.
But like Intravenous de Milo, I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
That is a funny name for now. Is there any so think about the parallels there. So is there any Kiss album, that sort of paralleled that album, or Stonehenge?
Not really,
or Stonehenge maybe?
Was it on the eighth day God created Spinal Tap or something? That was so Black Sabbath, right? That was directed right at Black Sabbath and the Ozzy Osbourne thing. Kiss never ever did do anything dabbled in that area at all. Iron Maiden did kind of briefly with the whole Number of the Beast kind of thing.
Well, no, but Kiss had a song called The Eighth Day. God created rock and roll.
Oh yeah.
On the eighth day, God created rock and roll. That was on Lick It Up.
And Shark Sandwich. I mean, that's just totally off the wall. I don't know.
Okay, well, think of Stonehenge for a second. Stonehenge. Okay, think of Stonehenge and think of Kiss for a second. See if you can go back to the album. See, is there any kind of parallel there?
Well, it's kind of parallel to the Destroyer cover, which is behind you right now. And at the time that they wanted to recreate sort of that destroyed city behind them. It just didn't work.
I saw the connection more with the Elder, like the theme, like the more of the theme of the Druids, and then this whole mysticism and this,
I was just thinking rock. I was just thinking superficially. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
But that's what I was saying. But that's only I'm stretching a little bit there, I think. But I do think that's what I said. Okay, everybody has their concept album, right?
Well, this is it. Every band goes through that phase to get your concept album out of all the whatever, and that was their moment to get some kind of a concept going.
Best production value ever. And because even a band like Today, I was thinking about this. This one of my favorite bands is Stone Sour, and they're a takeoff of a couple of members from Slipknot, but they're not anything like Slipknot. But they've even gone through. They got the House of Golden Bones. They did the same thing. They did this whole concept, like Corey Taylor did this concept, and sometimes these bands become a slave to the concept as opposed to a slave to writing good music. And anyway, but it has nothing to do with Spinal. It has more to do with Kiss and the Elder, and we talked about that earlier. But it was funny how that like Spinal Tap grabbed onto that production value of that, and you can see that Kiss. They certainly wouldn't have grabbed onto the Elder, that's for sure. But
no, well, I made a note of that when they were doing Stonehenge. The drummer was wearing an iron mask.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
And I thought that's so much like Slipknot, but Slipknot was yet to come. You know.
Oh, it's a night too. It's like the Elder.
Yeah, yeah.
Under the rose.
Even though you don't get that direct imagery in the Elder, you just kind of have to pull it out of. It was
I kind of took that to be sort of like the Executioner kind of mask. It wasn't an but it was that whole. And Viv Savage was wearing. What did he have on? He had like a ring of thorns or something like that, or
no. They were doing.
Oh no, he had a Viking helmet on, or.
Yeah, but there was another one where he's wearing like hospital greens, and he's got like a thing around his head, like if they're going to give him shock therapy. Yeah, and he's totally spaced out. He was a funny character.
Oh my god!
I don't know who the actor is. I've seen him before in other things, but he's quite funny.
Yeah,
the keyboard player.
I want to just make some eardrums bleed. That was the heavy duty rock and roll. That was in that song.
Yeah,
and then that great lead guitar at the end, right? The two of them. Remember? I
have to hear it again.
And then Nigel does. He does the Ace Frehley thing, and he goes. He blows on a guitar, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right, but
just a little reference. They met Howard Hessman in the hotel lobby.
Yeah.
And I turned the captions on just to try and get some names. Howard Hessman's character has a different name, but they refer to him as Duke Fame. And I don't know if maybe that's the name of a band, kind of like Jethro Tull, because the actual character had a different name on Internet Movie Database. But they were quite intrigued by his album and talk about the half-naked women. And the first thing I thought of was Love Gun, and you don't. It's sort of a cliche, but yet how many album covers do you really see half-naked women on? It's sort of like a cliche that doesn't always happen a whole lot.
Well, it's that whole scene there for me was more passing of the guard. It's like that's what if you think of Kiss, it's sort of like Kiss was, if you make the parallel to Kiss again, there was in their heyday. And then when they were waning and new bands were coming out, I guarantee you, if you saw interviews with Paul and Gene at that time, they'd be saying, in their own way, they'd be saying, he's a wanker. He's got a wanker. He's got this much talent. He's such a wanker. I mean, we had to apologize for his set. Right? Yeah. So I can see that happening, and that's what I saw as that passing of the torch as he was coming through.
Exactly.
And the groupies going after him.
Other bands becoming much more.
Oh, here we go. And all the groupies go running past him.
Yeah, because they had their moment, they had their heyday, and now someone else is in the limelight. Yeah.
But you can see that bitterness coming, and that's a natural thing too. You think about it. I don't care how smart you are as you get older, you always look at younger people who are thinner and getting girls, and you're no longer doing that with a bit of disdain. The little pricks. How the hell they do it? Why do they get to do that?
Yeah, and always these stupid little pricks, right? Yeah, but
little knobs.
At one time, we were stupid little pricks, and
we were knobs too.
Yeah, exactly.
Some more than others.
I liked it when they sang Harmony, or attempted to sing Harmony at Graceland, and I think this is typical of most bands. I mean, you wouldn't be there if you didn't have some vocal talents. And at some point in time, your vocal talents are put to the test. And I used a soundbite in our Christmas show, but it's Kiss on stage trying to do White Christmas. And they're trying to find harmonies. I know Eric Carr was with them. I don't know who else is on stage.
I remember that,
Bruce. Yeah, and they're trying to do White Christmas, and it's god-awful. You could hear them attempting harmonies. There is some harmony going on. But it's not great harmony at all, and it almost sounds barbershop.
Barbershop, bleating raga.
It's raga.
It's raga. Since my baby left me.
No, that's good. That's good.
Since my baby left me, found a new place to dwell.
Found a new place to dwell. That's all right. That's all right.
That's right. No, it didn't. It sounds fucking raga. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny. At the same moment, he says, "That's all right." David says, "No, it's crap."
And the voice of reason, Derek Small, comes and says, "Come on, we're at this grave of Elvis Presley," or something. So he quiets.
Yeah, well, he's a too much fucking perspective.
He's some perspective. That's right. He's much fucking perspective.
Have some respect for the dead.
But again, that was when they were at that point in their life in the band where they were really desperate. Things were not happening the way you wanted.
You know, if they were on such a busy touring schedule, they wouldn't have time to go to Graceland at all. It's almost like they were trying to fill in the time. I got that from some of the scenes. It's like, let's just...
Well, everything was getting canceled, right?
Because they'll arrive somewhere and it was canceled.
Yes.
So what do we do now?
Oh, it was the gig in Boston's canceled. Oh, don't worry, it's not a college town. Yeah. And the manager lying to them all the way through, Ian Faith, right? He's
Liam.
Liam Faith.
Liam.
Ian, Liam.
Yeah.
Ian Faith, yeah.
Yeah.
But he keeps lying to them, and trying to and boosting their egos, right?
Yeah.
To try and keep them from going off the deep end, right?
When they went back to the '60s, listen to the Flower People.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like Kiss at all. I just found, in terms of image, they look very much like early Pink Floyd, Sid Barrett, Pink Floyd.
The only thing I would say about that, though, is when I saw that and I thought about Kiss, if you see some of the earlier pictures of Paul and Gene and Ace, they kind of have some...
Well, Wicked Lester, it was... Yes, to me it reminded me of Wicked Lester days.
Yeah, the music didn't sound like that, but
Wicked Lester had a tiny bit of that in the sound. A little bit of that.
Well, you'd have to.
You'd have to.
Well, think everything came. Yeah, everything came from that '60s sound. Everything came from even Ted Nugent. You look at the Amboy Dukes, right? Where Ted Nugent came from, they sounded really different than his next morph. And that same thing with Kiss, and the same thing with Spinal Tap. I keep laughing because I talk to them about them like they're a real band. But I'd say the real parallel I saw there was when they talked about how Nigel and David first met. And they showed the two of them, right? Song
as boys,
yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Song, and that's where the band started. Ding, ding, ding. Gene and Paul.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I just read that in the book where he met Gene, and at a jam, didn't really like him that much, and one day Gene phones him up, says, "You want to get together and write some songs?" Okay, and yeah.
Remember the first song you wrote?
Oh, it was if she doesn't come back, I'm gonna take that train. It's funny the way that
19th. You're gonna
and the cry
all the way down, cry. On and on. Yeah.
But something. I watched that scene twice because just the look in their eyes, it's almost like they were trying to bring back the thought of a song, and it did come to them. And I thought, there's something there, like there's some old song in his.
Well, it's such a weird song.
Memory that it's just a typical, rock and blues.
But not for a 12-year-old. You know what I mean? Like you think of the song like Going on the Railroad Track. Like kids don't write songs like that. But you know what was really interesting about that? I would almost bet you money that they a lot of this movie was improvised, right? Like a lot of.
Oh, I would. Like those scenes with.
Well, they were. I know it was.
Sir Eaton Hogg. To me, none of that seemed scripted at all. It seemed very improvised. Oh, the Billy Crystal parts.
Yeah.
Come on, mine was money.
Mine is money, yeah. Bobby Fleckman, you know. Yeah.
Artie Fufkin.
Polymer
Records.
we could get Christine Vitale involved. She could do a good Bobby Fleckman, I bet, for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Just getting back to Listen to the Flower People.
Yeah.
When they broke into the sitar solo, that was straight out of White Rabbit. Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah.
Right, with the marching snare drum sound,
yeah.
I thought, oh my God, it doesn't get any more close rip-off of White Rabbit.
Psychedelic.
We love you.
the acid look on the face when playing the sitar. Yeah, it was awesome. They did such a great job of that. But you don't see the parallel necessarily for Kiss other than there was an incarnation there, and the whole name thing.
There was a genesis of something. Yeah, the fact that it was Wicked Lester became Kiss, which what were they called? The Flout? No, the Thamesmen.
The Thamesmen.
And then became Spinal Tap.
Yeah, I have a hard time saying it.
Yeah.
The originals and the new originals.
The Black Album cover I just thought was obviously relating to the Beatles' White Album, but then Metallica came out with something almost identical a few years later.
Well, that was intentional.
Was it intentional?
Yeah, I read it. Yeah, they actually made that as a tribute to Spinal Tap.
Oh, did they? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
None more black.
None. But how much more black can it be? None more black. I think it looks like death. I think you're just rationalizing.
In the song "Rock and Roll Creation," where Derek gets caught in the pod won't
That's a Kiss moment for sure.
I know, but you know what? The music was so much like the Who.
Yes,
these keyboard parts came in, and it was very much like, I don't know. I'm thinking either "Won't Get Fooled Again" or Baba O'Reilly. Very much like that.
Yeah,
but I mean, when you think about all the paraphernalia that Kiss had on stage, and things had to go wrong. One time, well, Gene only started flying, I think, in the reunion tour, but at one time he was in the middle of a concert.
Yeah, he
stuck. He flew and got stuck halfway up.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you could have. Well, the Spider's done that, right?
What's that?
The Spider's done that. It's got stuck.
Oh, probably got stuck. Well, Ace was coming down the stairs and electrocuted himself on those stairs because his guitar wasn't grounded out or the stairs weren't grounded out. I mean, there's so many things. Peter was saying that the first drum riser was on chain. It was chain drive. So there was I think there was 4 guys actually pulling chains, but they weren't pulling in perfect synchronicity. So the thing started to list one way and list the other way. And he was afraid that the drum kit was going to fall off. You know, so many things when you're dealing with theatrics on stage, so many things that can go wrong and will go wrong. You're dealing with, you're relying on hydraulics, you're relying on cables, mechanics, electronics, servo motors, you know.
I read something on Kiss FAQ. It said, was Kiss Spinal Tap before Spinal Tap, right? And it said, isn't there a story about Gene? Once somebody said, this person called Kinetic 74 wrote, said, isn't there a story about Gene watching This Is Spinal Tap and not finding it funny? So close to the bone, you don't see the joke. And somebody put a response from Gene in there. It says, not true. For one thing, I don't know how to operate a VCR. And another, I find Spinal Tap to be very amusing. A little known fact is that Nigel Tufnell approached me about joining Kiss in 1980. I told him to keep playing with a real band, Gymnasium. Big deals, not at liberty to discuss. Ace and Peter are losers, you know it. So.
Jeez.
That's funny.
That was from Gene.
No, it was a fake, right?
Oh, okay.
It was a fake. Someone was writing that the Nigel Tufnell approached Kiss to join the band. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Like Eddie Van Halen, et cetera, et cetera. But that moment in that song, and that's a really good song, actually. That's another good creation.
It is.
Right?
Some of the songs are quite good.
We should do that sometime. We should just. Because I know they came out and started touring that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
I saw them live. Now, if I can find the pictures, I'm going to insert them. But around 1990, they had another album out called "Break Like the Wind."
Yes.
And they played in Newfoundland. It was a beautiful day, and I'll tell you what it was. It was Canada Day, and they had stages all across Canada.
Yeah.
And they played Newfoundland. Then they got the plane with Erica M. from Much Music, and they flew to Barrie, Ontario. Then they flew to somewhere in the prairies, and then they finally ended up in Vancouver. So they played all of those Much Music stages. Anyway, I got between the crowd and in the security area, between the stage and the crowd, that security corridor. I got in there and got some pictures. So I've got to dig them out, and I'll post them in here. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah, but that whole pod thing was really cool. So very, 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 very Kiss-like. What about the scene where Nigel has left the band, and I'll
just go through my list. Do you want to do that?
Yeah,
now?
let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
no,
to
do
me,
your list.
Oh, do the list.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the next thing on my list was Janine and to me, she's just Yoko Ono.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's so obvious, she broke up the band.
Well, and Kiss never had.
But you know something but something that was really hit that nail on the head was later on at the tour end party. David is wearing this white suit, and it's very long, like long jacket, long white
John
pants. It looks just like the exact same suit John Lennon was wearing on Abbey Road. And with his long hair photographed from behind, it's so much like John Lennon. And Janine was so obviously Yoko Ono. And I'm just wondering if there's anyone in the Kiss band that you really don't see that kind of a presence, that female strong.
No, there was no Yoko.
There.
I don't sense
there was never a Yoko Ono in Kiss.
No, I don't think there was, and because no, definitely not. I just that was absent. And if it was there, we never saw it, and we haven't heard it from who. Yeah, we didn't hear it from any of the members that there was problems in that way. So they seemed that was something they never did. It was just kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah. In fact, all of those wives and girlfriends have been fairly quiet, except for Lydia, who's published the book and certainly told her story, and we've interviewed her here on Watchin You, and had a great chat. Other than that, we just don't hear from anyone else, do we?
But I thought about that too, and I thought that really she was much more of a sort of a participant, from early on, as opposed to someone who comes into the scene after the fact and tried to influence it, as opposed to just helping out, right?
Yeah, and that's what Yoko Ono was. I mean, she came right in when the Beatles were big, and just.
Well, I don't even know.
Can we really blame Yoko Ono for breaking up the Beatles?
I don't even know if that's what happened. I mean, I think it's I don't even know. I mean, do we really actually know that she actually did anything, or is it just the way John let the relationship go?
I think it was John's attitude towards her. I mean, she was in the studio sitting right next to John while they were trying to record. Yeah. And that reminds me so much of the scene where Nigel and David are trying to get guitar tracks done in the studio, and they're just blowing up at each other. You can really see the tension between them, and that's in any band. You're going to have that. This movie reminded me so much of Pink Floyd, because I'm such a huge Pink Floyd fan, and I've read so much about them. But huge blow-ups between Roger Waters and David Gilmour over creative differences, mostly.
Well, you can see, like you said, I've seen that before. Anytime you have a band, they have goals and visions, and then another party comes into the picture, and then it changes it for one of them. It's usually male-female kind of thing. That particular scene you're talking about was they're trying to learn I don't know what they were doing, why they were even in the studio. We never get that explained. Like they're in there playing
because they're on tour, right?
Yeah, so they're playing this lead guitar, and then of course he says this, and it's David that screws it up, and it says he says, you just play the fucking part. And I just says, I know the part. He said, no, if you knew the fucking part, he played the fucking part. Why'd you try playing the part without some fucking angel, flying over your head? And here we go.
That's when he blames the girl.
Yeah, and it kind of goes, explodes. and David, and you got to swear, because that's what they talk like, right? So you get no choice.
Jeff, did you know that D minor is the saddest of all the keys?
I did know, yes. I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
That's
the "Lick My Love Pump" scene is, it's behind all of these rockers who just get out there and squeal guitars and shake their armadillos and stick out their tongues. They all think that they're like the reincarnation of Beethoven, even if just a small part of them. They've got to have that musical. They want to talk in musical knowledge with musical terms. And it's just so typical, and I think that really comes out in things like Beth, Hard Luck Woman, The Elder. Okay, it's these musicians finding their softer musical side to say, hey, we can get out there and make lots of noise, but we're good musicians at the same time.
Or is it that that was there all along? And because you think about it, like in that particular song that Nigel's writing, right? Lick my love pump. It really is quite beautiful, and then but because he's a rocker, he has to change that to "Lick My Love Pump," right? Yeah. So that's what happens to them. They have this other sensibility that maybe it's the other way around. That's why I took that was like, here's this guy who can write this Mach piece, right? Yeah. Beethoven, was it Mozart and Bach? Yeah, he's a fan of them, right? So, and then he writes this thing, but then because he's in Spinal Tap, it's going to be "Lick My Love Pump."
Yeah. And to me, that was very Randy Rhoads, because Randy Rhoads was classically trained.
Oh, yeah.
He taught classical guitar, an amazing classical guitarist, and he brought that approach to any solo that he did. That's why his solos are just so unique, so well structured. And on a couple of the Ozzy albums, he does some classical guitar, which is really, quite well done. So that reminded me of Randy bringing that. I don't think Nigel was half the 1/4 of the musician that Randy Rhoads is.
No.
But to claim to have that classical background, I think a lot of rock musicians really like to think that there's some great musical greatness going on behind the
well, even in that little piece,
the inner workings.
Yeah, even in that little piece, you could tell that outside of the movie, that Christopher Guest has some musical talent. You could tell just the way, and
they'd have to, because they wrote all that music for the show.
Yeah. What else you got on your list there?
Getting lost backstage. That was Paul Stanley mentioned that in an interview. Okay, we're up to the thing you mentioned, Janine's persona sketches. So when the band is really struggling, they're looking for to reinvent themselves. Well, I guess Janine wanted to reinvent them.
Yeah.
So she comes up with these personalities like the yin and the yang. She turned Nigel into a goat. She turned Derek into a crab, which looked really funny. And then she turned David into a lion.
Lion, yeah.
And just that lion thing is just so typical of the Peter Criss thing and the Fox thing. And I mean, when they had to come up with makeup for Eric, why did it have to be an animal? Just because Peter Criss was a cat. And I could almost picture these people sitting down with the sketchbook and start sketching face after face after face to say, what are we going to come up with? Because they came up with the hawk at one point in time, and they thought that looked ridiculous. When you come down to it, I think Peter Criss's makeup as a cat worked, and I think it was quite ingenious. But I think when you sit down to paint up a human as any other kind of an animal, it can look pretty ridiculous. Especially Derek as the crab. And then same thing with Vinnie Vincent. They've got a new guitar player. Now they've got to come up with this persona. So I could almost see them sitting around a table, each one with a sketchbook, and they're just sketching and going mad. And not only do they have to come up with a persona that's cool and suits Kiss, but it's got to look good at the same time.
Yeah.
I just love how many times you could almost play a drinking game. Get a case of beer, watch Spinal Tap, and every time Nigel says, "Is this a joke?" you drink.
Is this a joke?
Right?
Do you have any idea
that
how much this is going to cost? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Ian says, "Do you know how much it's going to cost to dress up this band as animals?"
Yeah.
And I thought, holy shit, that's Kiss right on the spot.
Stonehenge.
That was great. Stonehenge.
He goes to Stonehenge at that point. And then, of course, are you going to get to the... I think
we're up to Stonehenge, and I said the drummer wears an iron mask.
Yeah.
Which was very Kiss-like, but almost pre... what Slipknot.
I saw that more like Judas Priest. And like you said, like more Black Sabbath. But I think they took shots across everybody's palette.
However, the cover of Quiet Riot's album...
Yeah, right on. Yeah, that's right.
Mask, which looked very much like what
the
drummer had on. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, they took shots. I know Steven Tyler took specific offense to the Stonehenge reference, because at that time they had they had an album out at the time that had Stonehenge on it, right? At the same time. And I think Rocks or something like that, and it had the Stonehenge on it, and he was really kind of put out by it, actually. Yeah. No sense of humor about it whatsoever.
And oh, how they danced.
That's right. Nobody knew where they came from or what they were doing.
The little people of Stonehenge. I learned that mandolin solo. I learned that.
I know.
Mandolin. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I saw it. You did a great job of it. I remember you and I were
sitting. If I had a mandolin handy, I'd play a little.
You and I were sitting in your basement, and one of the few times I visited you in New Brunswick, and I was showing you some new music I was learning, which was drop B tuning Slipknot. You said, "Well, here's something I learned new." It was that mandolin piece from Stonehenge.
No way.
So a little bit of a divergence for us, eh?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Where did we go? Yeah. I thought.
Yeah.
But,
go ahead.
Well, I don't know where you're going to go with the list. So one of the things I thought was really...
I'm near the end, so anything goes.
Okay. Well, one of the other parallels I saw, obviously, was the revolving members of the band, right?
Yes.
And the core, there's three members that were actually at the core, really. And then everybody else kind of revolved around them, right?
Well, I thought that the continuing revolving door of drummers was more like the revolving door of guitar players in Kiss.
Yeah.
Because they would have had Eric Carr stay. If Eric hadn't died, he would have stayed with them right on through. But all these guitar players would just keep coming and going. But I thought it was brilliant. I mean, just to add that little part, they all keep dying. And the poor drummer, he doesn't get a whole lot of airtime in this, but he's in his bathtub. And Marty says, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're going to live? You're going to survive? The odds are that I will survive.
Yes, odds are. I mean, how many times can it happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, then he explodes.
Just a little globule
yeah.
on his drum throne. That's all that was left.
Story goes he choked on his own vomit.
Well, I mean, that relates right back to, who was it choked on vomit?
Oh, it was Mama Cass.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and others.
I thought it was either Bon Scott or John Bonham.
Oh, yeah, they think, somebody got drunk and just turned over. But John Bonham was later, right, I think.
Yeah.
And
no, Bonham was in 79.
Oh, that's right. And but it was the whole line, that the brilliance of the improv was, yes, the story goes that he choked on his own vomit. Well, they don't really know whose vomit it was. It's really hard to dust for vomit.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant.
But that actually can happen, but I find absolutely, it's just zany, which is what makes it absurd.
Well,
and the British are great for doing absurd comedy, like Monty Python. It was so Monty Python-esque to do this whole thing of how the drummers keep dying, and one just spontaneously combusted, and the only thing left was this globule. To me, that was total Monty Python-ish.
Oh yeah, and they it's funny because they I totally lost my train of thought.
If you weren't so heavily sedated.
If I wasn't, I'd probably be more upset if I wasn't heavily sedated.
Yeah.
And
I made a point here or a note that the strife between David and Nigel does not reflect the Simmons-Stanley relationship, more like a Waters or Gilmore relationship. But then Derek comments on the difference between their creative ideas, like Fire and Ice, and I thought, could it be more like, Ace and Peter on one side, and their creative differences with Paul and Gene. That's the way I saw that one.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. He says, and so I see myself in the middle. I'm sort of like lukewarm water.
Yeah.
But the whole drummer thing. Oh, that's where I was going with that. The whole bizarre gardening accident, green globule exploding.
Exactly, bizarre gardening accident.
But bizarre.
That's so Monty Python-esque. Keep going.
So, but if you take the tragedy out of it, but think of the things that happened to the people in the band. Like, think what happened to Eric Carr, right? And think about what happened to Mark St. John when he left the band. There's some pretty bizarre things. Like when Mark St. John, what happened to him, his hand swelled up, right? I don't know what kind of
called Reuters syndrome or Reuters
I don't.
syndrome?
Yeah, something, but really bizarre, right? So really, it was, it happens in these bands where life goes on. But that's what I kind of interpreted there as far as a Kiss reference. That all these members of the band are, falling off and but then you say like there's the falling out, but then of course, at the end, they get back together again, right?
That's what I said. It came full circle, and this came before the reunion of Kiss. But any diehard Kiss fan from the 70s really wanted that. I don't know I think we all kind of felt it might happen someday, but I think in our hearts we all wanted to see that. And that's what was so clear when Nigel walked back on stage and the audience went mad. They welcomed him. They wanted to see him back
they
on
wanted
stage.
to, yeah.
And the audience cheered, and David goes, "Nigel, tough knowing guitar."
Yeah.
And that core band is back together, and that's what people want to see. And again, this was years before the reunion, but I think that anyone who's a diehard fan of the band has loyalty to the original lineup.
Yeah, and it's funny because I resonated with that when somebody close like that splits up that dramatically. They really are looking for an excuse to get back together so they don't have to. Yeah. The pride doesn't get in the way. But and that's what you could see in that scene was that there was a reason to, because just before that, Nigel announces that 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 Sex Farm is on the Japanese charts, and
I mean, that to me, that was, I mean, Cheap Trick's biggest album was what?
Budokan.
Live at Budokan.
Budokan.
And I mean, and when Kiss went to Japan, they were just huge. So I thought that was a direct reference to Kiss and Cheap Trick. You know, he says we're really big in Japan.
Well, everybody,
so let's regroup and go to Japan.
But everybody regroups and goes to Japan. That's what's kind of funny about that. So it's like, but I got a kick out. They said, you know, so he says, you know, Sex Farm's on the charts in Japan. Spinal Tap's version of Sex Farm. Sex Farm Woman.
Well, I thought that was great. They played that one at the Army base.
Yes, Spinal Tap. The various names for the band. That's when I realized it wasn't real. At the first part of the movie, they get out of the airport. And I actually thought it was a real rockumentary. I said, "Who the hell are these guys? I've never heard of them before." Spinal Tap. And then they get to the guys what they were the sign. They let them in the limo. It says Spinal Pap.
Oh, did it?
Yes,
Spinal Pap.
Pap.
Oh,
and then at the end, the guy says, "Was it Spinal Tarp?" Yes. our monthly Addie's weekend.
Spinal Pap and Puppet Show.
And Puppet Show. No, it was Puppet Show. And I've told him once, I told him 1,000 times. It's Spinal Tap, then Puppet Show, not Puppet Show. Before, right? But but there was a good parallel because just before you go on, at that Puppet Show, they had to, if you remember, because that was after Nigel had left the band. Mm-hmm. And they had to come up with a set list.
That was their freeform jazz improvisation.
But they had to do that because they couldn't, because of the material. Because they went through, no, that's Derek, he's on that song, no, can't do that, no, can't do that, and then you end up with this.
And they came up with a cozy 10 minutes.
Cozy 10 minutes, and they do the Jazz Odyssey, right?
Yeah. And you get this going on, right? So, you know, changes in the band, and note I made was when does it end and when should it end? And they're discussing this at their tour end party.
Yes.
And they pretty much realize that they're done, and they're trying to console themselves by saying we can now do all the
rationalizing.
Things they're rationalizing, saying we can now do all the things that we should have done, like Saucy Jack, and all my acoustic numbers with the London Philharmonic Orchestra.
You're a naughty one, Saucy Jack.
People should envy them because they envy themselves.
Oh, this rock bullshit, you know.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, that's really like Kiss. I mean, Kiss are having a good time right now, but when should Kiss end? I mean, will it be? It was clear to Spinal Tap that it was over. It was clear to them that it should end.
Well, clear,
and it didn't. Then they became big in Japan, but. That conversation I thought was really interesting because a lot of Kiss fans are asking themselves now, when will Kiss end, and should it have ended a long time ago?
When is the end, and is the end in and of itself? And that's pretty clear though. The people in general, but Kiss very specifically rationalize every single moment of time they have. So no matter what their current situation is, they rationalize that just like that conversation. Yeah. Oh, we're taking the makeup off. That's
you can never As a rock star, you can never admit, oh, that was a huge mistake. We don't know what we're doing.
The Elder.
You can rationalize
it's the best material we've ever done. The Unmasked is the best stuff we've ever done. We're on the cutting edge. We've got a concept album. We're taking the makeup off. We're putting the makeup on. Yeah. We don't need the ex-members. It'll go on without us.
If you watch Second Coming, one of the first 2 minutes of that documentary, you'll hear Gene say, "This band is always should have been and always will be the original four members."
Oh yeah, well, it's just because it fit.
Right, and it fit the paradigm at the time.
Yeah, and that's clearly, clearly what happens, right? And they're really good at doing that. I'm just looking through some notes. You get any other notes there?
I came to the end of my list. We got 3 minutes left. So, any final thoughts on Kiss versus Spinal Tap, or Kiss meets Spinal Tap?
Kiss, well, versus meets. Yeah, I think that to sum it up for me, I think that there were so many moments in the movie that make you think of so many different rock moments in time, and for us and for Kiss, I think that we've covered a lot of the areas that I guess what I would say, given the time we have left, I know that there's a lot of viewers know this movie. Mm-hmm. So what I would really, really, really encourage them to do is when you watch this show, is to really share your Spinal Tap Kiss moments. Like, what do you see? We just scratched the surface. I mean, we really did fly through this, Jeff. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on about this topic.
Oh yeah. And you know, something that I found is, you know, it's a great movie when you can watch it so many times and still get something new.
Yeah.
And I didn't put up my notes, but there was something. And I don't know why I didn't write it down, but I said, I'll remember that. But I thought to myself, well, I didn't really catch that before.
Yeah.
Either it was something that someone said or something someone did, and I thought that was kind of brilliant. There was a joke there, a really brilliant joke that might go over most people's heads 99% of the time. So I'm watching that like if you watch something like Pulp Fiction or Citizen Kane. It's the kind of movie you can watch 200 times and you still get something new every time you watch it. And a few moments were like that when I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't really get that before. And that was kind of a brilliant moment. Whether it was humorous or sarcastic or something.
So given the last one, our last minute, I'd like to know what that Kiss meets Spinal Tap moment is for you. And what's your favorite Kiss Spinal Tap lyric? So if you think of Spinal Tap's ridiculous lyrics for songs like Big Bottom, Sex Farm Woman, Kiss has their own lyrics that could be in the Spinal Tap movie. What are your favorite Spinal Tap Kiss lyrics?
Oh gosh, we got 1 minute left.
Not you.
For the audience, for them.
Definitely. You can think of all kinds, right? So, but think of those, and what are your favorite Spinal Tap Kiss lyrics, right?
Yeah.
This is a fun topic. We could talk about it more. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, definitely. So, as I said before, if you haven't seen it, you got to go out and see this is Spinal Tap. And if you've seen it 30 times, watch it again. It's fun.
I've seen it 10 times.
10 times?
Yeah.
I've probably seen it a few more times than that.
I
have to admit, the first few times, it's the kind of movie you have to watch a few times because I was young and I didn't quite get a lot of the references, and I kind of had to find the humor. Yeah. Some humor was immediate, but some of it I had to find. Anyway, we're on 15 seconds, and so this is a great topic. Jeff, always fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is Jeff Scott in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada.
And cool Uncle Jeff from Stewiacke, Nova Scotia.
We'll see you next time on Watchin You.